Hello, good good morning friends. Good morning everybody, and hope you all are doing well during this lockdown period. I hope you all are staying at home only, not going outside, not venturing outside, not taking risks of your life, and wish you everybody good health. Well, to continue with the class, we are discussing the first chapter of history, the French Revolution. In our last class, although I have not sent you my own video that I have uploaded, I've given you the YouTube video where I try to make you understand the topics, few topics of the first part of your chapter, the French Revolution. In that last class, Saturday, I have uploaded the assignment related to the topic, the France become constitutional monarchy. The France, last topic was about the France, how France completed the drafts of the constitution in 1791 and how the new constitution restricted or limit the power of monarch, the absolute monarch there, and how the new constitution transfer the political powers and authority from the king to the National Assembly. Well, friends, in your book, check out your book and go to page number 11. There is a blue box, box number 1, where you all will see some political symbols and their meanings. Please see these ones and try to understand the meaning of those political symbols. My dear children, you may get or you can expect some objective question, single marks question or 1 marks question from those parts too. And if you feel some, if you have some problems while going through those things, bring it into the notice, or you can feel free to ask me, or you can we can clarify those doubts when we will come back to school once again after this lockdown period will get over. Friends, to continue with the series of the classes, today we are going to discuss about the next topic of the same chapter, France abolishes monarchy and become a republic. Well, before I proceed with the new topic, let me tell you the meaning of the two main words, main terms used there in the topic itself. Yes, friends, can you just tell me what are those two important terms used there? Look at the topic once again in page number 14 and underline the two terms mentioned. Some other terms are also there, but the two important terms which you feel I'm talking about. Yes, well, I knew you'll find it out, and it's very good. You done it, dear friend. Those two terms are the two different types of government, monarchy and the republics. Well, monarchy is a form of government where the head of the state, a head of the country is monarch or a king or a ruler who rule on his or her own wish. He enjoys all the authorities, all the powers, all three different powers of the government like executive, legislative and judiciary. And after his death, or during the lifetime only, if he wishes, that he can transfer his authority to his son, or after his death his son will become the next ruler. People have nothing to do with the selecting or the choosing of the new ruler. The son automatically become the ruler. It's a hereditary monarchy. And yes, in class 7, in class 8 only, previous year only, we have already discussed about the topic republic in your political science. And yes, my dear friend, you remember that. Yeah, you're right. A republic is a form of government where a republic are those countries where the head of the government as well as the political head of the country is elected. And the particular head of the country is elected for a given period of time, and this post is not a hereditary post. It's depend upon the different, the system in different countries. Like in some cases, in some country, those are elected for 5 years. Say in our country, the head of the government, head of the country, the supreme head of the country, that is president, is elected for 5 years. And in some other country, they elect the head of the country for 3 years. Well, now this topic will tell us about how France transformed itself from the constitutional monarchy to the republic. My dear friend, political situation in France was not very good when it becomes a constitutional monarchy. After the French Revolution of 1789, we all know in after next 2 years, by 1791, France completed the drafts of its first constitution after the revolution. And that constitutions convert the France into a constitutional monarchy. That constitution restricted the lot of powers, the different powers and authorities of the king. Well, because the autocratic ruler like Louis XVI was forced to accept the constitution, newly adopted constitution, newly completed constitution. And well, it is evident that nobody actually wanted to lose the power and authority. Although Louis XVI was forced to accept it, but he was not liking it. He did not like it from his core of his heart. That is why he was looking with a chance. And yes, within no time, he secretly entered into an alliance with the ruler of Prussia. He went and he made a secret alliance with the ruler of Prussia, and he wanted to take the help. He wanted to get the help from the ruler of Prussia to overthrow the new practices there, new system there, where his powers were taken over by the National Assembly. He wanted to do away with these practices. He wanted to get back his lost powers and authority. Dear friends, when French Revolution took place in France, please remember, it's somewhere around the late 18th century, the later half of 18th century, somewhere around 1790s. Most of the countries in Europe were autocratic, monarchical countries. People were not happy there, like France only. People were not happy. The common people were not happy. But the rulers wanted to continue with the autocratic system there. They wanted to continue, with the old systems there. They don't want any type of changes. They were, they were not, liberal type the people. They were autocratic people. So, the countries like, Prussia and Austria, the ruler of those countries, autocratic ruler of those countries, were having fear in their mind. They are worried about, the new political development that has been taking place in France, just, in and around 1790s. That is why they were also, they had the fear that if the the political ideologies, the ideas and ideals of the French Revolution, like, equality, fraternity, and the liberty, the major political ideas that spread, that has been, made vocal by the French Revolution. And if these type of ideals will, spread towards, spread throughout the Europe, they believe, and they think that, in their country also, people might, revolt against this autocratic rule. They might will be in trouble, like the Bourbon dynasty in France. That is why, to root out, to do away with the, this problem only, they wanted to kill this problem from the root. Like, there is a saying that na rahe baas na baje basuri. So they wanted to finish this new system, new practices of the government which was introduced there in France after the French Revolution. So the country like Prussia and Austria, the immediate neighboring country of France, they were planning to, send troops to help the French monarch, that is Louis XVI, to remove that constitutional monarchy system there in the France, to remove the, the powers which is taken away, to remove this, the government of the people. Well, the neighboring countries were planning to invade France, to send troops. The National Assembly in France were thinking differently now. They realized that before these countries will send their, army to France, National Assembly decided and voted, and they declared war against Prussia and Austria. Large number of volunteers, self-propelled people from the villages, different parts of the villages from different provinces, they started, rushing towards Paris to join the French army to fight against those countries like Prussia and Austria. Now they started thinking that, they believed that they were not fighting only against this invaders or invading powers. They believe that they're fighting against the injustices, they're fighting against the autocratic practices, and they're fighting against the aristocracy there. Those people, those volunteers, whoever are moving from their villages and, the remote part of the country towards Paris, they started singing different type of, songs. They started singing the songs. You must remember, your children, that when India was fighting its, the war of independence, a large number of revolutionaries, they were singing some patriotic songs. We know about the song like Bande Mataram. Singing those songs like Bande Mataram, the revolutionaries, the patriotic people in India were ready to die. They were ready to face the bullets from the Britishers. Similarly, there in France, my dear children, they were also singing this type of patriotic songs. One very famous song they sang there was Marseillaise or Marseilles. Later on, this Marseillaise became the national anthem of France. During those days, this was that one decade, somewhere around 1789 to around next 10-15 years, those were the period of the revolution, the revolutionary periods. And most of the able-bodied men were fighting the war in the battlefield. So to look after the families, to earn the livelihood of the family, women came forward and they took it. They took these responsibilities of earning their livelihood. Now, women started taking care of their family activities. They started earning the required, things for to maintain their family activities and all. So during this period, women in France also played very important role. Well, friends, although French Revolution is famous for its ideals like equality, fraternity, liberty, etc., etc. I mean, these three very important ideals. But the first constitution of the France, which was formed after the revolution, it did not realize the need of the people. It was not being able to do away with that old practices of the social discrimination there. That constitutions divides the people once again into two different groups: the active citizen and the passive citizens. And we all know, in our last class only we discussed about it, that the only a very handful of the people belonging to the active citizens groups, those who pay a certain amount of the money as a tax, they were only given the political powers, they were only given the political rights to vote. The majority of the people, those were poor people in France, traditionally they were poor people, they were left out. They were victimized once again, and they were, categorized as a passive citizen. So, the first constitution of the France after the revolution did not give justice to the all sections of the society. So now these people, those who were victimized, those were not given with the political rights, they were now convinced that the French Revolution is not yet over. They are convinced that the revolutions need to be carried forward. It needs to be carried further. Now, in France, a new type of political organizations started coming up, very famous as the political clubs. These political clubs now become very important area, in very important place to discuss and debate the various political issues of the country. Those people who wanted to discuss the the policies, the programs and policies of the government, they started discussing those things there in those type of political clubs. Jacobin Club, which was named after the former convent of Saint Jacobs in Paris, was one of the very important political club formed in France during those days. As you know, women were also victimized by the constitution of 1791. That is why they also started forming their own political clubs. Women also started founding their women political clubs, and they started voicing their grievances through those political clubs. Most of the members of these Jacobin clubs were the poor people. They decided to wear a long striped trouser to set themselves aside, to set themselves, different from the others, so-called aristocratic, fashionable people there. Because of the new type of dresses they started wearing, they were given a new name also. Later on, they came to be known as sans-culottes. Sans-culottes, the literal meaning of the term sans-culottes is those people, they are not the one who are not wearing the knee breeches. They are called sans-culottes. Well, friend, we all know that when the country is at war, the most of the important population, most of the vulnerable populations of the countries are the poor populations, poor peoples. During this war period, the wartime, the poor peoples are the one who suffer a lot. It's same here in this type of the lockdown situation also, dear children. You must have been, you must be very much updated with the recent news and all. It's not only in our country, it's almost every country in the world now facing this, pandemic, that is pandemic of this coronavirus. And the most vulnerable people in this, almost each and every country, are the poor people. the daily wage earner, because they have to, they were living by earning everyday basis, earning on everyday basis. Now, because they can't go out for the work, they're not earning anymore. As a result, they are not getting proper food to eat. Although different organizations, even the government and different other social organizations and all are taking responsibilities to distribute required foods and food packets to those people, but it is not sufficient. Similarly, that period, during the war period, it was the poor people, the common people and the mass people. Poor were not in less number in France at the time. The large number of the people were poor, and they were the vulnerable people, and they did not got the food. And because of this war situations, the prices of the food increased a lot. One side, there was the supply of the food grains were very less. As a result, when there is more demand than the supply, definitely and obviously it's a rule of economics, only the prices is going to increase. And that is exactly what happened there in France. The price of food grains and all increased multiple times. As a result, these poor people, most of them were the member of the Jacobin clubs, started, they were not happy at all. They were not happy at all. So, in the summer of 1792, the Jacobins planned an insurrection. Insurrection is a violent, uprising. It's a violent movement where large number of the people, take resort to the arms, and they violently organize this type of the movement against the authority, against the government. On the morning of 10th August, they stormed the palace of Tuileries, killed the guards, and held the king into hostage for several hours. They take the king into the hostage. Later, the assembly voted to imprison the entire royal family. After that, elections were conducted there in France. Dear friends, this time the new elections in France was not conducted on the way the elections were conducted after 1791 by the first, as a result of that first constitutions after the revolutions. That time, you remember, the elections were conducted on the basis of the active citizens and the passive citizens. But for the first time in France after the revolution, now these elections were conducted not on that basis, but all the men, I repeat, all the men at the age of 21 and above were given the voting rights, irrespective of their economic background, irrespective of whether they pay taxes to the government or not. Each and every man, I'm not using the term everybody, each and every man above the age of 21 were given the voting rights, and they voted in this election. So after the election, newly elected assembly came to be known as convention. Earlier, the first election or the election of the 1791, that created an assembly. That time it was known as National Assembly. Now these elections, the new assembly which was created after this election came to be known as convention. Dear friend, after this, on 21st September 1792, this newly elected assembly or convention abolished the monarchy, constitutional monarchy, which was created after the 1791, and declared France a republic. So, dear friend, the constitutional monarchy which was created there in France in 1791 did not last for a long period of time. Within next 1 year only, that constitutional monarchy was replaced with the republic system. Thank you very much. Stay well. You know, take care of yourself, take care of your health, and pray that we will meet very soon in the school. Thank you.